Hello, everybody. Welcome in. It's Monday. It's rookies. It's the last race of the season. It's going to be an absolutely epic finale here tonight for the Monday GT4 rookies in Assetto Corsa Competizione. We go to the Hungaroring for the season finale, which was selected as the random track last week during the marble race. Action is underway at the Hungaroring. The rookies beginning their first laps of qualifying one, and we head down to the track. Let's see their progress and how things have been going for them. It is a tight championship battle at the top between Joe Kalile, who leads the way in the 26 McLaren, and Rally Yatanashi in the 621 AMG. Just 5 points separate them going into the final two races here at round number 8. Joe Kalile across the line goes to the top by 7/10 of a second, goes into the 154s, a 154.997. Goes wide at turn 1, invalidating the next lap. Right away, Josh Ransom in second, Samartsev into third, John Baptist fourth, Karnez in fifth, and Johnson and Tucci round out the top 7. Still waiting for about half the grid to set a qualifying lap. Let's see what Rally Yatanashi has in store for us, going through the S's of the Hungaroring, that middle sector. Tight, technical, twisty. Following it up with some high-speed corners to end it off. Hope everyone has had a good season up until this point. Finally getting to see some GT4 action myself for this season. And of course, right as it comes down to the final race, Chris Douglas is also in with a shot at getting the top spot in the championship. He's just 27 points behind, or excuse me, 17 points behind the top spot of Joe Kalile. Rally Yatanashi building a gap here to start a qualifying lap. As Kalile remains on top, Ransom improves his personal best with the Alpine of Liam Blanchard going across the line there, being given some energy from the chat. Same with Joe Kalile. Welcome in, chatters. Hope you guys are having a good Monday so far. We'll try and make it better with some back-to-back rookies action. If you're unfamiliar with the format, there are two 15-minute qualifying sessions today, and there will be two 20-minute races after those qualifying. So we'll have this qualifying, a 20-minute race, a 15-minute qualifying, and then race number 2 after that, as Blanchard goes through the quick left-hander at turn 5 to begin sector 2, heading up the hill into the chicane. Bangs are alive on Blanche's livery. It does look quite good. Bottom 5 still without a lap, but looking to change that is Liam Blanchard. Taking over Dr. Porkchop's role as the lone Alpine on the grid. As Schaefer gets on the board in the 801 KTM, slots into 10th place behind Johnson and Tucci. As Blanchard and Yatanashi go through the final 2 corners, we'll see if they can get on the board. Yatanashi gets into 8th place, and Liam Blanchard goes into the top 3. He will split Samartsev and Ransom and line up at the front of the second row. Chris Douglas, the third driver in championship contention, 17 points back. Currently sits in 8th place ahead of Rally Yatanashi, who got moved down to 9th with Blanchard going into the top 3. Douglas in the 718 Aston Martin. Best result is a 2nd place for Chris Douglas, but the consistent top 10 finishing has put him into contention for that championship. He got 2nd place at round number 4 and round number 6 as well. Just Sector 3 left for the Beach Dean AMR. Baptist and Samartsev in the pits from 7th and 4th place. Can Chris Douglas improve and get himself on to, or potentially into, a top 5 position? Needs 2/10 to get ahead of Baptist, a 1.5 to move up into the top 5, and gets about 3/10 of a second, but immediately moved down back to 8th as Johnson is able to improve in his AMG up to 7th place. Blanchard goes to the front row up to 2nd place. That moves Ransom to 3rd, and he goes back to the pits in the 325 Janetta. 5/10 separate Blanchard as Blanchard will pull off to the side and return to the pits himself. Joining Ransom and Samartsev in the pits, Ewan Steins in the 24. Aston Martin goes up to the line, needs 1/2 second to get ahead of Samartsev, gets very close, within 1/10, but stays in that 5th place position. Blanchard a quick in and out of the pits, with Douglas going through the chicane. See if he can improve and join the other Aston Martin on the 3rd row. Getting into the final minutes of this session, just 3 minutes left. All of the drivers do have a valid lap on the board. Kyle continues to improve the benchmark at the top, though. It's a 54.8 for the rest of the field to chase down. Puts another couple of tenths between himself and Liam Blanchard. What does Chris Douglas have coming up to the line? A bit slower on this lap, it looks like, coming out of the final corner, and he is a bit off of his personal best. But crossing the line with 2.5 minutes left, he's got 2 more attempts at this one. Rally Yatanashi shuffling down all the way to 10th and running wide at the final corner, invalidating the effort. It would have been a 56.9. Absolutely would have moved Yatanashi up a few positions at minimum. But nevertheless, still some time on the board for the 621 Dogbox Racing to find a valid lap here. Or an improvement on the valid lap, I should say. Yatanashi does have a valid lap. It's good enough for 10th place and needs about 4/10 to get up to 9th. 6/10 to get up to 8th, and about a 1.5 seconds to challenge 6th. While Samartsev and Carnes back in the pits, as Daniel Schaefer in the 801 KTM looking for about 1/2 second of an improvement to get ahead of Mitchell in the number 20 Porsche ahead of him. 1 minute left in the session. Steins joins those sitting in the pits as the 801 punches it out of the final corner. Is there half a second on this lap from Schaefer to get up to 12th? There's even more. Goes up to 11th place. Passes the pair of Porsches, but Tucci responds immediately and gets that 11th place position back in the number 4, but pulls off to the side of the road, and that will be the session done for the number 4. Chris Douglas returns to the pits, can't find an improvement on his lap. Josh Ransom runs wide out of the high-speed corner of turn 10. Unfortunately for the 325, Janetta Hezzy Thomas is here. Welcome in, Hezzy. The third will be the best that the 325 can finish. Not enough time to start another lap. Well, at least you made it. You can still race. So that's good news for the number 59. What does John Baptist have? Currently sitting in 10th. Needs about 0.3 of a second to get ahead of Chris Douglas. 0.4 to get ahead of Johnson. So how high can the number 7 climb? Through the final corner for his final qualifying lap in the Trinity Racing Porsche. What does John Baptist have in store for us? And can't improve on his personal best. Or no, he does improve on his personal best, but just can't find the time to get ahead of Douglas and Johnson. So now it's all in the hands of Liam Blanchard. Does he have 0.7 of a second to get ahead of Carlisle to take pole away? What does Liam Blanchard have here in the Firebrand Alpine? Up to the line, he gets an improvement, but about 0.3 off of Carlisle's time, a 1:54.8 set by the number 26 McLaren to take pole position here in race number 1. As he back on the controller. Three minutes for the drivers to get their race setups loaded. Make sure they have enough fuel in the car for 20 minutes of racing up ahead of us here at the Hungaroring for the final time this season. The rookies set off. We'll see what sort of skills they picked up along the way racing for the 7 weeks before. At the front, it is an all too familiar name in that position. It's Joe Carlisle in the number 26 McLaren, starting from pole position, has a handful of race wins to his name this season as well. The championship leader going into the season finale. Let's see if he can close it off here with a 5-point gap to the next driver. Next on the grid, though, is Liam Blanchard in the Firebrand Alpine in the number 15. He will start on the front row. Good second place start. Got within 0.3 of Joe Carlisle's time. What does the race pace have in store from the McLaren to the Alpine? Next on the second row, we have Josh Ransom starting in the third in the TVR 1325 Janetta. Starting in fourth is Dmitry Samartsev in the number 84 RN Vision STS BMW M4. In the top 5 is Ewan Steins in the Street Art Racing number 24 Aston Martin. Next to him on the third row is Gabe Carnes in the Curve Caressers Racing number 9 Camaro. Rally Yatanashi in 7th place in the Dog Box Racing 621. This is the driver in 2nd place in the championship. 5 points back from Joe Kalile in the top spot. And Rally Yatanashi makes 7 different manufacturers in the top 7. Only now we'll get a repeat, as it's an all AMG 4th row with Javier Johnson in the Flatland 180 127 AMG starting from 8th place. Chris Douglas in 3rd in the championship starts from 9th in the Beach Dean AMR 718 Aston Martin. Rounding out the top 10 is John Baptist in the Trinity Racing number 7 Porsche. Behind him, another Porsche. It's Tucci in the Porsche Motorsports number 4 starting from 11th place. Chris Douglas starting from the pits with a pit lane start for this one. We'll see what progress he can make from there. From 12th on the grid, it's going to be Daniel Schaefer in the Crimson Rear 801 KTM, the lone KTM on the grid tonight. He's sandwiched by some Porsches behind. It's Merrill Mitchell in the Porsche Motorsports number 20. On the 7th row, from 14th, it's Nate 8 in the Nate 8 livery in the 168 AMG. And Hezzy Thomas joining late back on the controller from the States in the Dog Box Racing number 59 AMG. He rounds out the 15-car grid with 14 drivers on track, 1 from the pits. This is the first 20-minute race of the night with Liam Blanchard and Joe Kalile on the front row. Ransom 3rd, Samartza 4th. 7 different manufacturers in the top 7. Good to see the variety of cars on the grid. So many great liveries as well. With the fangs of Liam Blanchard getting close to the bumper of Kalile at the formation lap. The all-important formation lap for the GT4s. They don't have any tire warmers, so it's up to the drivers to generate any sort of temperature and pressure into those Pirellis. As we're seeing some weaving side to side, some heavy braking. The driver's trying to get the car in the right condition for the race start. No carnage into T1, please. We will have to wait and see what happens with that as we go through the Sector 3 timing marker. Side by side, we go to round out the formation lap. Can Kalile get a good jump early on? Does the Alpine have race pace to challenge the McLaren? What does the second row have in store? BMW, notorious for getting some good starts. We saw Brian DeSantiago plenty of times absolutely launch off the line in his M4. What does Samartsev have in store? And the 5th row too. So many different manufacturers, so many opportunities around the Hungaroring to show off their different skills. And Tucci with the drive-through for improper position at the start. Kalile at the front, already ahead of the Alpine and leading into the braking zone. Down the inside, Josh Ransom looking to go all the way into the lead. He runs a little bit deep and into the side of the Alpine. Joe Kalile still gonna try to get through and into the race lead, and he does so. The Alpine and the Ginetta just stronger on the brakes at the start. And Liam Blanchard with the grip around the inside, or around the outside, turning to the inside, trying to fight Khalil through, but can't quite do it as up the hill they go into turn 5. Khalil leads the way. Blanchard remains in second, Ransom third, and Rally Yatanashi with a fantastic start, all the way up to fourth and challenging the podium positions. Tucci also gets a great start, starting from 11th, but unfortunately will have to serve that drive-through for the improper start. Rally Yatanashi drifts a bit wide. This might give Samartsev an opportunity to fight his way back into 4th. Thinking about it, down the inside of the high-speed corner at turn 10, but Rally Yatanashi keeps the grip around the outside and keeps 4th place. It's just not that heavy of a braking zone going into turn 10. And Rally Yatanashi through the final few corners, able to hang on in front. The Camaro of Carnes is looking quick though through that final sector, as it is Gabe Carnes who's going to challenge the BMW down the inside. Who has the straight line speed here? BMW versus Camaro, and the BMW gets a car length ahead and slots just in front of the Camaro in case Gabe Carnes thinks about sending it down the inside, but he is going to try to fight it the long way around and maybe even think about the switchback here, but the opportunity never really opened up on the inside as down the hill we go into turn 3. The top 3 still separated by less than a second. And same with 4th to 5th. Yatanashi to Carnes pretty close out on track as well. Tucci clears the drive-through. As this is our top 3 continuing to battle it out. Josh Ransom with a big move to the inside at turn 1, but just couldn't quite make it stick. Blanchard and Khalil retaking their positions. And at the moment, it's looking like the McLaren is pretty strong through that first sector. But here through the corners is where Blanchard can really take advantage with that nimble Alpine chassis. The fight for position here for the final spot in the top 10. Daniel Schaefer currently holds on to it in the 801 KTM. Hezzy Thomas starting from the back of the grid, looking to get into the top 10 back on his controller. But he certainly knows how to use one of those. As the inside opening up momentarily, but the KTM far enough ahead to cover it off. But now on acceleration, the 59 AMG accelerates out of the corner and looks to get the place, hugging the inside of the track. The Aston Martin of Steins looking to get back through the field. The 24 must have been involved in an incident earlier on as he qualified inside the top 5. But nonetheless, a good defensive move from Schaefer, hanging it around the outside in the 801 KTM, holding on to that final spot in the top 10. Couple positions ahead. Johnson and Baptist fighting for 7th. John Baptist starting from 10th, up 3 places to 7th. As Nate 8 goes back into the pits in the 168. Baptist a little bit squirrely going out of the chicane and down the inside. Can't quite keep the speed. The AMG goes through and into 7th place. And once again, these four getting very close at the end of Sector 3. Hey, I wouldn't say you weren't any good luck. There's still some good racing going on. Plenty of opportunities for some passes to happen. But Merrill in 9th is doing a good job of holding off the KTM, who in turn just is not letting Hezzy Thomas or Steins any opportunities to go through as well. So Merrill in the Porsche leads the pack, then it's Schaefer, and then behind it's Steins going down the inside of turn 1. Hezzy Thomas is going to have to defend the long way around. Merrill goes a little bit deep into turn 1, but it's the Aston and AMG who are side by side fighting it out down the hill. Going into turn 3, the outside becomes the inside, and there's contact in front between the KTM and the Porsche. The KTM getting much more slowed down than the Porsche did, as both Steins and Thomas go through, but the KTM fighting back now side by side with the AMG, and the 801 is able to get one of those places back. And look at Steins, he's already on the offensive and down the inside of turn 6, going up the hill into the chicane. The Aston Martin takes 2 positions in 1 sector. Steins now has that 9th place position. Merrill to 10th. Schaefer 11th. Hezzy Thomas in 12th. That KTM, much like the Alpine, very nimble through the corners, can take advantage of that middle sector. As now Steins has some clear air ahead of him to get to John Baptist. The gap 7.5 seconds to get to the Porsche sitting in 8th place. But Mitchell still having to defend from Schaefer and Thomas. Chris Douglas, after starting from the pits, he's up to 13th and looking to get on the back of this pack, just 2.2 seconds behind. And you can see the Aston coming into shot there, the blue and white, cresting the hill at the end of the straight. And back down into the twisty parts we go. There was contact on the last lap between the KTM and the Porsche. None this lap, as the Porsche tries to scoot across and defend the position. Nearly cuts across to the front of the KTM, as Hezzy Thomas just lingering in the back there, looking to take advantage of any opportunity that may come his way. But the AMG might soon come under pressure from Chris Douglas in the Aston Martin. And Hezzy thinking of lining up a move, but just can't get the grip out of the corner to get into the braking zone side by side with the KTM. And onto the grass goes the Porsche momentarily. The 801 tried to sneak on through, but Merrill gets back onto the racing line quickly and shuts down any opportunity. Hezzy Thomas just staying right on the back of that KTM, but no way through for the Dog Box Racing AMG.
We are at the halfway mark, keep pushing.
10 minutes gone by, 10 to go. As there is Nate 8 in front in the 168. As the battle approaches him, kindly gets out of the way of the quad of cars, as Hezzy Thomas with a late look and contact with Merrill and the KTM. T-boning the AMG, nowhere for Schaefer to go. Chris Douglas able to sneak through unscathed as the 718 takes 3 positions in 1 corner, up into the top 10 after starting from the pits. But just unfortunate there, Hezzy Thomas a little bit deep into turn 1. Merrill Mitchell remains in front of Schaefer and in front of Thomas. So in the end, just Chris Douglas able to sneak through. But Mitchell remains ahead of Schaefer, ahead of Thomas, as now there is a 4-second gap between the KTM and the Porsche in 11th. But we'll see what the KTM and the AMG can do now. A little bit of aero damage on the cars as well from the contact, but nothing unmanageable. At the front, Joe Kalile with a 2.5-second gap, nearly 3 seconds over Liam Blanchard, as those two were pretty tight in the opening laps. But now crossing over that halfway mark, Kalile able to extend that gap to over now 3 seconds. Josh Ransom remains in third, maintaining about a 2-second gap to Liam Blanchard in second. Rally Atanashi with a good start gets up to 4th place, but at the moment the race pace keeping Yatanashi in 4th, with Samartsev rounding out the top 5 in the 84 BMW. The Camaro was looking quick, like it could stay with the BMW and the AMG at the start, but falling back just about 5 seconds, but holding on to that 6th place position with a good gap over Johnson in 7th place. John Baptist then in 8th, with Ewan Steins trying to recover what was a 7.5-second gap, now down to 4 seconds with 7 minutes to go. Can the Aston Martin get back on the tail of the Porsche and challenge for 8th place? After the pit lane start, Chris Douglas gets up to 10th place, as now Mitchell back under pressure from Schaefer for 11th place. That's an absolute late move from Merrill, and he's able to keep it on track and holds on to it. Oh! But he goes deep in the hairpin, and now Hezzy Thomas trying to sneak through as well, and does so. That was an absolutely late dive by Merrill to try and take back the position. Had it for a moment, but then went late on the brakes into the hairpin at 13. And just could not make that move stick. Or make it stick around the outside, I should say. Runs a touch too wide, losing the position to the KTM. And Hezzy Thomas in the AMG. But still sticking close to the back of the AMG, though. Can still fight him in the final 5 minutes here. Baptist getting close to Johnson in the final 5 minutes here. And there is the green Aston of Steins, having the gap now to 2.1 seconds. That's what the back of Johnson's car is seeing, with the green Porsche and green Aston further in the back. But in the straight line, the AMG able to pull out a 1 second gap over John Baptist. Oh, Taco Man! Welcome in, everybody! Welcome in, Raiders! Hope you guys had a great stream. You join us in the final 4 minutes of race number 1 in the season finale around the Hungaroring. Thank you very much for the raid. Hope you guys had a fantastic evening. I'm assuming you guys were doing some Le Mans Ultimate. Always see you playing that, my friend. Happy to have you all on board with us now as the rookies season coming to a close tonight. Joe Kalile in the lead of this one. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. LMU, there you go. In this championship, Kalile and Yatanashi separated by just 5 points going into the final round. Kalile qualified on pole in race number 1 and has led the 9 laps of racing up until this point. Just 2 left as Kalile crosses the line with 2.5 minutes to go. It's getting pretty close between the 2 yellow cars in 2nd and 3rd place. The Alpine of Blanchard and Josh Ransom in 3rd, within a second of each other. As he's back in the pits in the number 59, and we lost one of the drivers as well. That's one of the Porsches, the number 4. Unfortunately, a couple of drivers having to take some unscheduled pit stops here. Ransom looking to challenge Blanchard. The final few laps here. Can the Alpine hang on to 2nd place? They got pretty close early on in the race in the first opening laps. The gap's opening up. But now in the final 5 minutes, the Ginetta of Ransom able to use the race pace, maybe just conserving the tires a little bit more. And now going into Sector 2, the Alpine using that nimble chassis to its advantage. Yes, there will be a race 2. There's going to be another 15-minute qualifying after this one, followed by another 20-minute race. And that will be the true season finale. And how is the championship looking? It's pretty tight. Joe Kalile, who is in the lead of this one and about to start his final lap as the race leader in the number 26 McLaren. He's got a 5-point gap in the standings over the driver sitting in 4th place. Rally Yatanashi qualified in 8th, but had a mega start, got all the way up to 4th. Tried to challenge the podium positions early on in this one, but in that middle phase of the race, just falling back about 3 seconds now behind the podium positions. And so it is still very tight between the two of them. Anything can happen because we still have 1 race to go after this one. As John Baptist now right on the bumper of the AMG down the straightaway going into the braking zone of turn 1. The AMG goes deep. The inside opens up for John Baptist. He says, thank you very much. I will take that position. And the number 7 goes up to 7th. Great move from Baptist, taking advantage of that inside opening up. The AMG under pressure, thinking it had to brake a little bit later, and just couldn't hang on to it with the speed. Now, can Johnson fight back? and try and take that 7th place position back. Ewan Stein's getting close as well. He's within about a second. Going into the chicane. The Porsche should have the advantage going into Sector 2. And Stein's getting very close to the back of Johnson as they continue to throw out the challenge. But Joe Kalile qualifying on pole position by about 3/10. Withheld the pressure early on in the opening laps, and he will take the checkered flag as the race leader in race number 1 to try and solidify his championship title. Behind Liam Blanchard will finish in 2nd place, just 3/10 separating the Alpine and the Ginetta for 2nd and 3rd, but Blanchard will bring it home to take the 2nd step of the podium for Firebrand as Josh Ransom in the 325 Ginetta gets a podium position. Ralia Tanashi finishes 4th after that mega start. Samartsev finishes inside the top 5 in the BMW. Carnes in 6th. Baptist does hold on to 7th. Johnson holds on to 8th, and Steins with a great charge up the field at the end there, finishing in the top 10. Chris Douglas also with a top 10 finish after starting from the pit lane. The 801 of Daniel Schaefer in the KTM crosses the line in 11th place. And Merrill will just return to the pits there, with the last driver on track being Nate 8 in the 168. 1 sector left for him. Had to take an early pit stop there. We'll get ahead of Hezzy Thomas, who had to finish in the pits there. Thank you for the hydrate, Sneaky Amanita. With Hezzy being given some energy as well. Rookie LMU champs. Well, we will have a new GT3 championship on Tuesdays. Sign-ups for that will be open pretty soon. So you can kind of treat that as a rookies championship. It's just 40-minute sprint races in the GT3. There's Nate 8 across the line to take 13th place. Unfortunately, Tucci out of this one. Hezzy Thomas also finishing in the pits. Mitchell joining those in the pits, but gaining enough laps on the 168 to finish in 12th. Well, to all of you Raiders joining us, now you can get familiar with the format as we now get to run it back again. Another 15-minute qualifying session starting right now.
Green light, go, go, go.
And this will set the grid for the season finale. 20 minutes of racing to go once again. Yes, Ivan, we will for sure see you in that next LMU championship. Always good to see you challenging for those podiums in that series. Unfortunately, couldn't make the streams for the final 2, but hey, we got a majority of the season down there. And we'll hope to do the same next season for the rookies as the 325 leads the grid out of the pits onto the track. It's Josh Ransom after getting a podium finish in race number 1. We'll see if he can do a repeat of that, maybe even climb higher up in the podium positions. So yeah, after this one, we should have signups open for the new ACC seasons of both the rookies and the multi-class on Wednesdays, as well as Le Mans Ultimate on Tuesdays. And those championships should be starting the last week of August. But that is to come. Qualifying 2 is now. Josh Ransom completing the outlap. And he will demonstrate a lap for us on board of the Hungaroring. Getting himself set up for the final corner, running wide, trying to carry all of the speed he can. The right-hand drive Ginetta crossing the line. Long run down into turn 1. Begin to brake right around the 100-meter mark. Hard on the brakes. Down all the way to first. Tight turn 1. Down the hill we go through turn 2 and into another hairpin at turn 3. Much trickier to get back on the power. The hillside just breaks away from the driver. And then a high-speed turn 4, flicking the car to the right, trying to keep it flat out, but not running wide on the left-hand side. Now back up the hill we go. A slight kink to the right, a dab of brakes, down a gear, slinging the car to the left. Again, trying to keep it within the track limit barrier there. And into the hairpin at turn 6, shooting back up the hill. The concrete very slippery on the inside curb and outside. Now the chicane, turn 7 and 8. Before we start the S's, the Ginetta able to absolutely absorb those curbs perfectly, cutting the inside apex of turn number 8, or turn number 9, excuse me, as now we head through the high-speed corners. Turn 10, flat out. Turn 11 to the right, down a gear, but still very high speed, trying to carry all the speed, but once again, not running too wide on the left-hand side. Heavy braking zone, good overtaking opportunity during the race, as we saw, down to second, and now the final hairpins to close it off. Turn 13 and 14, a left-hand hairpin on the penultimate lap. Slippery curbs on the inside. Once again, that concrete not offering a lot of grip. And same here out of the final corner. Cuts it perfectly and out to the curbing on the outside. The 325 comes up to the line and will set the benchmark of 155.010 for Josh Ransom. Blanchard goes into second place, 1.1 seconds off of the pace set by Ransom in the early goings of this one. But as we mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, the GT4s, no tire warmers for them. So it is up to the drivers to get themselves warmed up and ready to go in the qualifying session. Blanchard taking a deeper line into turn 3. Then we saw before Thomas on the board, Johnson on the board as well, about a 10th behind Hezzy Thomas. As the number 84 BMW of Samartsev also can't get a valid lap on the board here. So a majority of the grid in the first 5.5 minutes can't get a valid lap on the board. Chris Douglas having to take a pit start in race number 1. As he sits in third place in the championship at the beginning of the round, 17 points back from the top spot. See what lap the Aston Martin can do, though. Qualified inside the top 10 before having to take that pit start, as the 718 goes into the top 3, gets ahead of Thomas and behind Blanchard by about 4/10, by exactly 4/10 of a second. Gabe Carnes to the line in the number 9, goes to 6. Tucci is back, as Khalil goes to pole position in the number 26, a 154.572 from the McLaren. Now on this lap, Samartsev able to get a valid lap on the board and goes all the way up into the top 3, gets ahead of Blanchard, and has an 8/10 gap to Josh Ransom in second place. Tucci's back and comes up to the line, gets a personal best on the board, needs about 4/10 to get ahead of Carnes, holding on to that final spot in the top 10. Liam Blanchard 3/10 behind Samartsev, 1.1 seconds behind Josh Ransom to get onto the front row. What does the Alpine have in store? Can he get back onto the front row where he qualified in race number 1? The 15 comes up to the line. It's a short run, and he does go up to the front row. Goes up to second place, 2.5 tenths off of provisional pole sitter Joe Kalile. Now Rally Yatanashi sitting inside the top 5. Looking like a better qualifying from the AMG so far. Getting shuffled down to 6th place with Johnson improving into that top 5 position, but Yatanashi now out of the final corner. It's looking like a good lap as it stands. Can Yatanashi get inside the top 5? Gets even better, goes to 4th. Puts about 3/10 between himself and Samartsev. And needs about a half a second to get up to Josh Ransom in 3rd. Who need a RC Cola? I haven't heard of one of those in a while. Still no improvements from Kalile. A 154.572, still the benchmark to chase. Blanchard in the pits with just under 5 minutes left here in the final qualifying of the season. And unfortunately, Yatanashi runs wide and invalidates the lap in that final sector. And so the 621 will return to the pits from 4th. We'll see if Josh Ransom has a 10.5 in him. Try and get up onto the front row ahead of Liam Blanchard. Genetic carrying a lot of speed through turn 11. Just a 10th and a bit. All that Josh Ransom needs, but unfortunately out of the final corner, a little bit down on his time. And he still has time though for a couple of efforts here. if he has the fuel and the tire life to do so. Blanchard we saw with that earlier we saw a trip to the pits. So getting some new tires on the Alpine for the final effort here. Good to see you rally in such a tight championship battle at the top. And thank you for the hydrate as well. Much appreciated. Even though I'm running out of tea. Well, if you guys want more Chevy, here you go. Here's Gabe Carnes in the number 9, completing Sector 1. Currently up on his personal best through the first sector, needs about a 10th to get ahead of Hezzy Thomas, and a further 10th will see the Camaro ahead of Chris Douglas. We'll see if Carnes can bring it home in the final sector here. Minute left for the Camaro, and all the other drivers, that is, too. Majority of the grid back in the pits already, though. As the number 9 rounds out the final corner. See if he's got 3/10 in the bag here. Coming up to the line, running a touch wide, but able to keep a good bit of speed going. Gains a 10th on his personal best, and gains a position up to 8th. Goes the Camaro. Oh yeah, the Mustang GT4 would be absolutely sweet. And Hezzy Thomas being given some energy as well. The top 7 all in the pits. Joe Kalile also being given some energy by the chat. Daniel Schaefer will be first across the line in the KTM. Kept it just within track limits there, exiting turn 11. Schaefer needs about 4/10 of a second to get ahead of Baptist into 11th. And about 9/10 to get into the top 10. Out of the final corner goes Schaefer. Is it enough to get ahead of Baptist? It is enough to get ahead of Baptist. Pretty close to getting up into the top 10 as well. So the 801 slides up to 11th. So now it is up to Hezzy Thomas, Gabe Carnes, and Nate 8 to try and get their final qualifying laps on the board. Hezzy Thomas comes up to the line and can't get an improvement on his personal best. Will start in 9th. What does the Camaro have in store? Needs less than a 10th and finds a lot more than that. Nearly gets into 6th, but the Camaro will start from the front of the 4th row. And Nate 8 across the line. Unfortunately, no Mitchell in this one today. Cheers for the hydrate as well. And now I've officially run out of tea. And so now the final 20-minute race of the season. Tight championship battle, 5 points between the top two going into tonight's race. Carlisle solidified his position with a win in race number 1. But we know racing, absolutely anything can happen. So, the final 20 minutes of the season. And this is how the grid stacks up. Championship leader Joe Carlisle in pole position in the number 26 McLaren. Can he bring it home for the second time today? From the front of the grid, lining up next to him, it's an all too familiar car. It's the Alpine of Liam Blanchard, the Firebrand representative in the number 15, starting from second place. And it's the same top three as we had in race number 1. Josh Ransom starts from third in the 325 TVR1 Janetta. Rally Yatanashi with a better result here, looking to get the race win and try and get into that championship fight. 5 points between him and Carlisle going into this one. The 621 Dogbox Racing looks to close out the season, maybe sneak up onto the podium here with a good start. We saw him get all the way up to 4th from 8th in race number 1. So will it be 4th to 1st for Yatanashi? Dmitry Samartsev in the RN Vision STS BMW number 84, starting from inside the top 5. Next to him on the 3rd row, it's Xavier Johnson in the Flatland 180 127 AMG. Gabe Carnes is next in the chat favorite Camaro in the number 9 Curve Caressers Racing. He starts from 7th place. 3rd place driver in the championship, Chris Douglas in the Beach Dean AMR 718, starting from 8th place. Ezzy Thomas able to get a valid lap on the board in this one because he joined on time. In the number 59 Dogbox Racing, he starts from inside the top 10 in 9th. And rounding out the top 10 is the 24 of Street Art Racing, Aston Martin. It's Ewan Steins. In 11th is Daniel Schaefer in the Crimson Rear 801 KTM. Next to him will be John Baptist in the Trinity Racing number 7 Porsche. Tucci and Steins both getting pit lane starts. Nate 8 will be the last driver of the 14 car grid out on the track in the 168 AMG. And this is the car of Tucci sitting in the pits in the Porsche Motorsports number 4. It could be that some didn't press drive, or they have to serve a pit lane start. One of the penalties for the rookies. It was unknown to us what it is. As the sun beginning to set here at the Hungaroring. Season also coming to an end after this 20-minute race. It's a format the rookies know and love. Doubleheaders are a great way to learn some racecraft. And after graduating from the rookies, they look to take on their skills in the multi-class championship on Wednesdays. Tai Chin won the rookies season two seasons ago, took the skills into multi-class and got the GT4 championship win there. That just goes to show you these rookies might be classified as rookies, but some of them certainly have the pace of some quick drivers indeed. this championship is all about learning and having fun, getting familiar with sim racing. And yeah, the GT4's some of the best racing on offer as some cars go deep there into turn 12. Blanche being given some energy. Our chat commentator on Wednesdays putting his skills to the test and getting onto the front row. Let's see if the Alpine, the Ginetta, the AMG can challenge Carlisle if in pole position. Rounding out the final corner, zipper formation, 12 on the grid, 2 in the pits. And here is the final race of the season.
Green light. Go, go, go.
Nate 8 with a drive-through being out of position at the start. Blanchard slow off the line. The Ginetta goes through. The AMG goes through, and the BMW is challenging down the inside. But on the brakes, Blanchard able to fight back. Oh, and there's a bit of carnage behind. I think that was the Camaro and the AMG of Hezzy Thomas getting involved with some side-by-side action as they will fall back to the back of the grid. Rally Yatanashi gets up to third momentarily. Can the Alpine fight back? The outside becomes the inside as the 15 tries to go through, but Rally Yatanashi will stay up in third place. And it's Josh Ransom who's challenging now for the race lead. I'm not sure if there was contact between the two of them, but the inside opening up for the Ginetta, and late on the brakes, he tries to go. A slight tap on the back of the McLaren. He has to cut through the chicane, and there's a tap further behind from Blanchard on Yatanashi, and Chris Douglas is going to take 2 positions in one corner to get up to third. Yatanashi and Blanchard fall back to 7th and 8th place. John Baptist gets through in the Porsche as well as does Samartsev in the BMW, getting back into the top 5. Blanchard, a late send down the inside, contact side by side between the two of them. And Blanchard has to yield the position to both Baptist, and Yatanashi goes through as well. Fantastic racing all the way up and down. A little bit of contact here and there. But what can you do? That's racing, folks. At the front, championship leader also getting involved in a little bit of contact, as the 168 still has that drive-through for being out of position at the start. And the gap's now calming down just a touch. The number 9 getting shuffled down outside the top 10 with a bit of front-end damage on that car as well. Might be impacting the performance of the Camaro just a touch, but keeping it within a second of the KTM for a spot in the top 10. And after a great start by Chris Douglas, he rounds out the podium positions. Johnson gets up to 4th. Samartsev in 5th. Can Douglas hang on to this one and bring it home on the podium here today? AMG is challenging pretty closely, though. And the BMW close enough to take advantage of any opportunities that may come his way ahead. Oh, and deep goes Johnson. The BMW might try to sneak on through here, but he's not close enough. Baptist goes deep as well in the Porsche. That's 2 positions lost for the number 7. Yatanashi and Blanchard go through. For the race lead, the gap remains around a second, about 5 minutes into this one. Josh Ransom hanging on to the back of the McLaren. But a good battle developing for that final spot in the top 3. With Yatanashi and Blanchard about 2.5 seconds back. We'll see what sort of pace they have in the bag to try and close in on this battle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. As it stands, Douglas ahead of Johnson, ahead of Samartsev, and that's Blanchard that goes down the inside of turn 13 to get ahead of Yatanashi. Great move by the Alpine. Now the AMG with the straight line speed. This is the battle up ahead. We might be able to catch a glimpse of the battle behind, but it looks like the Alpine comfortably ahead of the braking zone, but there's contact between Yatanashi and the Alpine, but they remain in the same positions. John Baptist can't take advantage, but still right there in 8th place. Bit of bumping going on here and there, but nothing too crazy. As this is a great 3-way battle we have for the final spot of the podium. Yeah, I feel the same way. As soon as like there's any sort of like half spin, I'm like, oh, any sort of little thing can happen. And looking on from the back of Chris Douglas' car in the 718, the AMG is looking stronger through the braking zones and trying to get the over-under done. And going into the penultimate corner, the 718 heavily on the inside line, able to defend that podium position. And now it's Blanchard trying to get past Samartsev for a spot in the top 5. Once again, Douglas with a defensive line going into turn number 1. Absolutely great racing we have here for that final spot of the podium. The top 2 about 6.5 seconds ahead of this gaggle of cars. As we head now through Sector 2. Oh, and down the inside goes the BMW. Late move on the brakes. Can the 84 hold it? No, he cannot. Johnson holds on around the outside to stay in 4th place. That BMW appeared out of nowhere. Now 6 cars in one shot here from Douglas to Baptist, 3rd to 8th. Oh, and there's Nate 8 with some damage on the front of his 168 AMG on the side of the road there. And here we go, down the straight. Who has the advantage? Going into turn 1, it doesn't look like anyone's close enough to send a late move into the braking zone, as we are halfway into race number 2. Khalil leads the way after 5 laps of running. Josh Ransom keeping him company right behind. Within a second is the Janetta in second. Then we have Chris Douglas defending from Javier Johnson for the final spot of the podium. And they are not alone, with Samartsev, Blanchard, Yatanashi, and Baptist very close to this battle for the final spot of the podium as well. In 9th, you have Hezi Thomas. 10th, Schaefer in the KTM. Then you got Steins, 11th, Carnes in 12th, Tucci in 13th, and Nate 8 rounding out the grid in the 168. Unfortunately, you got that drive-through early on, and it's hard to recover in the 20 minutes. And once again, the 718 just defending the inside line for his life. BMW trying to go side by side through turns 9 and 10. But just can't quite line up the move, and now it's Blanchard who might be thinking about throwing the move into turn 12. Thinks the better of it and tucks back in behind the BMW. And here is where we've seen the Alpine really take advantage, and down the inside of the final corner goes the number 15 to get up into a top 5 position. Does the Alpine have the straight line speed to defend from the BMW already side by side? And the BMW creeps ahead of the Alpine and maintains his 5th place position. Now the Alpine trying the over-under attempt, but unfortunately for the Alpine, the outside becomes the inside, but he will switch it back to the inside. A little bit of contact between the two. The back of the BMW goes airborne for a second, losing the rear end momentarily and losing 2 places in the process to Yatanashi and Baptist as well. The Blanchard will move up to 5th, Yatanashi to 6th, Baptist to 7th. So now the gap opening up just a touch from Yatanashi to Baptist. Who got a little bit slowed down. While the BMW was trying to recover, but nonetheless still in it. Oh, and the number 7 losing the position to Samartsev, falling back about 1.5 seconds, if not more like 3 seconds. Heading down the hill through turns 3 and 4. Douglas hanging on to that final podium position that he got early on, qualified near the bottom of the top 10, but able to take advantage early on and defends the inside line perfectly when he needs to. No room for Johnson to go through, and Blanchard recovering back into the top 5. We'll try and use the pace of the Alpine to go on through, as we are down to just 5 minutes left in the season finale. Blanchard thinking about the move around the outside, but just not enough of a braking zone coming up for an overlap. 15 tucking back in behind. Khalil able to get some separation from Josh Ransom. They now have a 2.5 second gap between them. Chris Douglas a little bit deep into the final corner, but the AMG isn't close enough to try and go to the inside. As it is now a run down into turn 1. Yatanashi at the back of this 4-car battle, with Liam Blanchard up ahead. Xavier Johnson in 4th, a half spin from Blanchard, not able to carry the speed down the hill he would have liked, and now defending the inside. The 621 can't go through. And from defense to offense, Blanchard trying to take advantage of the AMG struggling out of turn 5. A bit of a wide line from the AMG. The Alpine, with his small body, able to sneak through onto the inside. Has the inside for the first part of the chicane. Leaves the room for the AMG for the next part. But Johnson will have the inside for the next part. Can he keep it on track? Can he defend the position? He can. Rally Yatanashi tries to get through the Alpine as well. The AMG in front of Johnson goes a touch wide. Blanchard tries to go the long way around onto the grass. Can he keep it? Now has a nose along the inside going into turn 12. Rally Yatanashi, no room to go through from 6th. So Johnson will hold on to 4th. The Alpine sandwiched between the two AMGs. Nowhere for Blanchard to go. As we just have 2 laps left on the season, Chris Douglas will be very happy to see the battling going on behind. He's able to build a 3-second gap over Johnson to try and secure his podium position. Contact! Oh, even more contact! Yatanashi goes into Blanchard, who goes into Johnson. The BMW of Samartsev takes 2 places and takes a spot back in the top 5. So Blanchard escapes the best out of that contact. He goes up to 4th place in the Alpine. Samartsev takes 2 places there and gets ahead of Yatanashi and Johnson. It goes from bad to worse from Yatanashi, starting from 4th, trying to recover to 6th, and now getting a drive-through for track limits as well. Yeah, you know, we might need some cursing help because Tyler's not available all the time, so hey, happy to have you help out with that. Final lap for Joe Kalile in the race lead after 10 laps, a 3-second gap between himself and the driver behind him, Josh Ransom. And Yatanashi goes into the pits to serve that drive-through, will drop outside of the top 10. Hezzy and Baptist battling for 8th place. Or actually what's going to be 7th place after they cross the sector timing mark, with Yatanashi having taken that drive-through. So battles all the way to the end of this one. So just one sector left for Kalile in the race lead. Some positions still established to be established behind, but Kalile with a dominant season, the most wins out of anybody in the number 26 McLaren, despite missing a few rounds. He will take 2 for 2 race wins in the final round to close out his championship. Take a bow, Joe Kalile. This is your summer GT4 Rookies Championship winner, taking the checkered flag and finishing out the season with 2 race wins. Josh Ransom taking another podium tonight in the 325. Janetta and Chris Douglas with a fantastic start and great defense will take a podium in the final race of the season. Liam Blanchard finishes 4th. Dmitry Samartsev finishes in the top 5. Javier Johnson in 6th. Baptist in the number 7 takes 7th place, able to defend from Hezzy Thomas. Ewan Steins finishes in 9th, and Carnes finishes inside the top 10. Rally Yatanashi in 11th, gave it an absolute great battle all the way to the end of this one. Consistent finishing from the 6-2-1. Great running from Yatanashi. Schaefer takes the checkered flag in 11th place. Tucci through the final corner in the number 4. Taking 13th across the line. A minute of ads just as the race finishes. Of course, that's how it goes. Nate 8, the last driver, on track to finish out the season, as we will invite the top 3 from both races to join us in the green room for a quick chat of how your guys' race went on. But no stress if not. And with some heavy damage to the front of the car, Nate 8 will still take the checkered flag on the season in the 168, and into the wall once more goes the AMG. We'll take it back to our studios here. Season finale certainly provided some great action all throughout. Some challenges for that top spot, but ultimately Joe Kalile prevailed on top in both races. An absolutely perfect Monday for the McLaren. Qualified on pole in both race 1 and 2 and got the race wins in both. Championship decided. It goes to Joe Kalile. And now that's the last race for a while here at Trackilicious. We've got a bit of a break until the last week of August when the championships will start back up. The ACC Multi-Class Rookies and the Le Mans Ultimate Championships will all be back up and running. So that's going to be some good fun. Kalile and Blanchard joining us. Welcome in, gents. Great racing from you tonight. Way to seal it there for the championship.
Oh man, I'm sweating so bad right now. I've never raced so hard in my life. That was crazy. Just those first couple of laps in the beginning of both races, there was so much pressure. I just knew like I had to get out in front a little bit into turn 1 to avoid like any sort of mayhem. And race 1, I got kind of caught up a little bit, but race 2 was a little bit cleaner. So man, that was crazy. And I had Liam chasing me down all of race 1 too. So.
Yeah, and then I realized my tire pressure was like a whole pound too high. I was like, that's not going to work.
Yeah, and you were coming under pressure at the end of race 1 as well from the Ginetta behind and having to hold them off in kind of like that final 5 minutes there.
Oh, Ransom?
Yeah, watching the hemorrhage lap time was not a great feeling. I want to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ransom put up a good fight at the beginning there in race number 2 as well. Kind of like those first 10 minutes hanging on to within about a second. Certainly putting the pressure on.
He's an aggressive driver, but it really works in the Ginetta, and like not in a bad way. He really does know how to fight well, and it's really cool to see. And it really makes you think about it. Right? Anything you do, you're like, man, he could send that, and that car does support him. It is pretty insane. So props to him for that. I'm very lucky I got away with 2 10s.5.
Yeah, on race 2, I mean, he was pushing me so hard. I had 3 track limits warnings with 6 minutes left in the race.
Oh, good.
So like I was just I thought he was going to catch me because I had to slow down so much because if I caught the drive through, my race was over. So like I had to drive so conservative there at the end. I was worried he was going to get me.
Should have taken one just for the love of the game, but what do I know? Dude, race 2 was insane. I was on almost the rev limiter going on the formation. I was like, I can start race 2 on second gear. Horrible decision. Horrible. McQueen is fading. I watched 4 people pass me.
McQueen is fading.
My God.
It's funny. I just did a little Cars marathon. Actually, that's funny that you mentioned that.
Oh, didn't include me. All right, no worries. No worries.
Said no invite.
No invite. I got a lucky Disney Plus login at the moment, so
for sure.
I have to take advantage while I can.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, man, I've been racing with Trackilicious now 2 years. And this was like the first sim racing community that I became a part of. Like Eric just came to my stream one day and told me to come through. And like ever since then, I think I've raced almost every rookie league and some of the open series. And like this is the first league I've actually won. And
yeah, man.
I feel like I owe it all to Trackilicious, man. Like all the people that are here that have taught me like all along the way. It feels really good to end like my last rookie series on a win like that and to be going into the open. I mean, it's awesome, man.
Yeah, certainly excited to see what you can bring on the Wednesdays. And yeah, everybody's open to join the Wednesdays. You don't have to win anything, of course, but yeah, it's great to see. Because yeah, the rookies unfortunately has the rule where if you win the championship, you are no longer eligible for the rookies. But nonetheless, Joe, excited to see what pace you have for us in the Wednesday multi-class. You thinking of joining in the GT4s?
I don't know yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to go back to the GT4s or if I'm going to start racing GT3s. I've got some decisions to make for what I'm going to do next.
I hear GT4 is where it's at. I'm just saying.
It's always where it's at.
I really like the GT4s, so you'll probably see me in a GT4 next season for sure.
Firebrand sponsorships, some pretty fierce competition. Just saying.
Yeah, Blanche, always happy to have you in the chat there. Good to see you racing tonight as well. Congrats on the podium finish there. Well, excited to see.
The first time I get to back it up. I know, I get to talk so much crap, but I got to back it up for the first time in my life. This is a new feeling for me. I don't really know how to handle winning. Well, not really, but
that's awesome.
Excited to see you guys.
Commentators.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm excited to see you guys back on the track for the next season. Enjoy the little break we have here, and congrats on the podium, Liam, and the wins, both the races and the championship, Joe. Well done. to bring it home there after 8 weeks of running. We'll see
Thank
you
you,
guys
sir. Appreciate
in the
it.
next one.
Hi, Mom. She's gonna watch this.
Always got to
See ya.
shout out to Mom. See you guys. Moving on back here to the green room. Thank you guys for joining us. Much appreciate you all. And yeah, that is it for us here at Trackilicious, streaming for a little bit until the last week of August. Discord is going to be the place to go for the announcement of the next championships. SimGrid is going to be the place to go to get signed up. There are some track days Trackilicious is hosting if you are in the Michigan area. Get signed up for those on the Trackilicious website, as well as some shirts available on there, hats, all sorts of fun stuff. Get yourself signed up for sim racing, track days, all sorts of good stuff available at Trackilicious. And yeah, happy to have you all here joining us tonight for some GT4 rookies running. Happy to be able to at least stream the season finale, and it has been a super fun race to watch. If that was what the whole season was like, they were in for an absolute blast over the last 8 weeks. Thank you for the follow, Flatland, and all of the other followers I may have missed before. Thank you for the support from myself and all of the Trackilicious crew doing the hard work in the background, getting everything set up, the admins, the managers, the stewards, everybody in between, keeping things running as smooth as possible. But we couldn't do it without you guys joining us, signing up, doing the racing, watching along, chatting along, doing all the hydrates, giving your favorite drivers some energy, and as well as Tyler Morgan's curse protection. So beware of that for next season. But until then, stick around for the raid. And thank you to all the raiders who stuck around from the El Taco Man stream. Happy to have you here at Trackilicious. We will certainly have some Le Mans Ultimate action for you next season. So try to join us for that one. Would be great to see you on the grid with us. Until then, have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you may be watching us from. Have a good August. Until we see you next time, stay safe, enjoy the summer, or what's left of it, and have a good one. Till next time.